In Laos, many customs and practices may seem strange to those unfamiliar with the country, but they reflect a rich cultural heritage deeply rooted in tradition, religion, and community values. Whether it's prohibitions on certain actions, such as cutting hair on specific days or visiting homes without following certain protocols, Laos has a unique set of rules that must be respected to ensure a smooth experience for visitors. These customs are closely tied to the nation's Buddhist traditions and beliefs about spiritual purity, good fortune, and respect for the community. One of the most fascinating aspects of these rules is how they interconnect with Lao people's daily lives. From the importance of head and foot etiquette to specific rules for social interactions, Laos is a country where understanding its customs can make or break your experience. As we walk through these unusual customs, be prepared for a surprise towards the end of the video. One of the facts will definitely leave you in awe, so don't go anywhere and make sure you stay with us until the very end to uncover the full scope of Laos' intriguing and sometimes surprising customs. Now, without further delay, let's dive into the top 10 weird laws and customs you need to know when visiting Laos. 10 Women and Monks. One of the most strictly observed cultural rules in Laos revolves around the interaction between women and monks. Laos is a Buddhist country, and monks hold a very revered position in Lao society. According to Lao custom, women are forbidden from touching monks. This rule comes from the belief that contact with a woman can disturb a monk's spiritual purity, which is crucial for maintaining their high spiritual status. This taboo is so deeply ingrained that it extends beyond physical contact. For example, if a woman wishes to offer something to a monk, she cannot do so directly. Instead, a man must act as an intermediary and pass the offering. In many cases, women are not even allowed to walk in front of a monk, as that could be seen as disrespectful. This practice is based on the idea that monks must remain pure and devoted to their religious duties without worldly distractions, especially from women, whose presence could be seen as a distraction. Although this rule might seem strange to visitors from different cultural backgrounds, it's important to understand that this is a sign of respect toward the monks and their spiritual role within Lao society. If you're visiting Laos, be mindful of these customs, particularly when interacting with monks in public places like temples or during ceremonies. 9. The role of the head and feet. In Laos, the head and feet are considered symbolic representations of the highest and lowest parts of the body, respectively. The head is considered sacred, while the feet are thought to be dirty and lowly. Because of this, the way you treat these areas of your body can significantly impact how others perceive you in Lao culture. One of the most important rules in Laos is never to touch someone's head, whether it's an adult or a child. In fact, even a gentle pat on the head, a gesture that's often seen as affectionate in many Western cultures, is a major cultural faux pas in Laos. The head is believed to be the most sacred part of a person's body, and touching it can be perceived as disrespectful. On the flip side, the feet are considered the lowest part of the body, and pointing your feet at someone is considered extremely rude. Visitors to Laos should avoid sitting with their feet pointed at another person, whether it's during a conversation, meal, or social gathering. Additionally, it's common practice to remove your shoes when entering someone's home or a temple, as stepping inside with your feet dirty is seen as disrespectful. When greeting elders, it's customary to bow your head slightly as a sign of respect. This practice further emphasizes the significance of the head as the highest part of the body. Additionally, it's essential to avoid any actions that might involve pointing your feet at another person's belongings, as this can be considered an insult. 8. Dress codes and modesty. Laos places a strong emphasis on modesty, and this extends to how people dress in both public and private spaces. In general, clothing that exposes too much skin is considered disrespectful, especially in sacred places such as temples. This is rooted in Lao culture's deep reverence for spirituality and the belief that dressing modestly is a sign of respect for both oneself and others. When visiting temples, you'll need to ensure that your clothing covers your shoulders and knees, regardless of your gender. For men and women alike, revealing or too tight clothing is frowned upon. It's also important to remember that even if you're not visiting a religious site, wearing excessively revealing clothing in public spaces may be seen as disrespectful or inappropriate. One common clothing item in Laos is the traditional sarong, which both men and women wear. It's a simple, loose garment that reflects the country's commitment to modesty. While sarongs are generally worn in more casual settings, they can be seen in both urban and rural areas. As a foreigner visiting Laos, it's recommended that you adopt a similar dress code to avoid standing out or inadvertently offending the local population. In addition to being a sign of respect, dressing modestly is also about protecting the sanctity of religious spaces. When entering a temple or monastery, it's important to be mindful of the atmosphere and treat the environment with the utmost reverence. Removing shoes before entering these spaces is a common practice and shows respect for the sacred nature of these places. 7. Restrictions on jewelry and artifacts. Laos is home to a rich cultural history, and many of its artifacts, including religious statues, antiques, and artworks, hold deep spiritual significance. Because of this, the government has imposed strict regulations on the sale, export, and possession of such items. This is not only to preserve Laos' cultural heritage, but also to prevent the illicit trade of sacred items. Visitors to Laos should be aware that it is illegal to buy or sell certain items, such as Buddha statues, religious artifacts, or rare antiques, that may have been stolen or illegally trafficked. If caught attempting to export these items without the proper documentation, tourists can face serious legal consequences, including fines and imprisonment. Furthermore, Laos has a significant problem with the illegal trade of wildlife and endangered species. Items such as tiger bones, elephant tusks, and rhinoceros horns are frequently smuggled across borders and sold in underground markets. The government has been taking steps to combat this illegal trade, and as a visitor, it's essential to avoid purchasing any wildlife products or artifacts that could be part of this illicit market. As a responsible traveler, it's best to avoid buying items that may seem like authentic souvenirs, but may actually be part of the illegal trade. If you're looking to bring home something special, there are plenty of legitimate craft markets where you can purchase locally made goods that do not violate any laws. These souvenirs are a great way to support local artisans while respecting the country's cultural and legal boundaries. 6. Guide requirement for remote areas. Laos is known for its stunning landscapes, including vast rural areas, mountains, and forests. While these areas are beautiful and offer a glimpse into traditional Lao life, they also present certain risks. The country is still recovering from the impact of the Vietnam War, and thousands of unexploded ordnance, UXO, remain scattered across rural regions. As a result, traveling through certain parts of the country requires a local guide who knows the area well and can ensure safety. Certain villages and rural areas are particularly hazardous due to the presence of these unexploded devices, and without a guide, it can be difficult to navigate safely. Guides in these areas are often locals who have extensive knowledge of the terrain and the dangers, and they play a crucial role in protecting visitors from potential accidents. Moreover, some rural communities in Laos have restricted access to outsiders. If you encounter a village with a sign that says TR, meaning no entry or private area, it is a clear indication that visitors are not welcome. Ignoring these warnings and entering such areas can result in the villagers confronting you, or worse, applying social or even physical sanctions. Therefore, when visiting remote areas, it's essential to be accompanied by a guide who can ensure both your safety and adherence to local rules. Having a guide also allows for a deeper cultural experience, as they can help explain local customs, traditions, and the historical context of the area. They can also serve as intermediaries, ensuring that your interactions with local communities are respectful and in line with local customs. 5. Disrespecting local superstitions. Laos is a country rich in superstition, with many beliefs tied to the spirit world and supernatural forces. Local customs and taboos are often connected to these beliefs, and violating them is seen as disrespecting the spiritual world, potentially bringing bad luck or misfortune. For example, many Laotians believe that sleeping with your head facing west can shorten your life, a superstition that stems from the belief that the dead are often laid with their heads facing that direction. In addition, there are strict rules regarding how you behave when entering a house or visiting a temple. For instance, it's considered very bad luck to make a loud noise inside a home, as it is thought that this could disturb the spirits. Similarly, entering a home with your shoes on is considered disrespectful, as it's believed that the spirits of the house do not appreciate the dirt from the outside world being brought in. When interacting with local Laotians, it's important to show sensitivity toward these beliefs. If you're invited to someone's home or a sacred place, be sure to adhere to local customs such as removing your shoes and maintaining a quiet, respectful demeanor. If you inadvertently break one of these taboos, be sure to apologize immediately and explain that it was unintentional. These superstitions are an important part of Laotian culture, and respecting them will go a long way in ensuring that your interactions with local people are positive and harmonious. Whether you're visiting a rural village or a city temple, always be mindful of the spiritual significance of your surroundings. 4. Public display of affection. In many cultures around the world, physical affection such as holding hands or hugging is a common gesture of affection between romantic partners. However, in Laos, public displays of affection, PDA, are generally considered inappropriate and disrespectful, especially if they occur between unmarried couples. In fact, showing affection in public, even something as simple as holding hands, could lead to social backlash or even legal consequences, particularly in rural areas where traditional values are more strongly adhered to. This prohibition is especially strict when it comes to physical contact between men and women who are not married. It is not uncommon for foreign visitors to find themselves in uncomfortable situations if they forget or are unaware of this rule. In public places such as markets, streets, or temples, it's advised to keep your physical interactions with others private, as this reflects respect for Lao culture and social norms. While such customs might seem restrictive to outsiders, they are deeply tied to Laotian notions of modesty and respect. In Laos, the expression of affection is more private, often reserved for the privacy of one's home or intimate spaces. If you are visiting Laos with a partner, it's important to be aware of these cultural norms and adjust your behavior accordingly. This is especially true in more rural areas, where traditional values are more firmly upheld. It's always best to err on the side of caution and avoid any public displays of affection during your stay. 3. The practice of removing shoes. A well-known custom across many Southeast Asian countries is the practice of removing shoes before entering a home or sacred place. In Laos, this rule is strictly followed, and it applies to both locals and foreigners. Whether you are visiting someone's house, a Buddhist temple, or even certain shops and restaurants, you will likely be required to remove your shoes before entering. The custom of removing shoes is rooted in both religious and cultural beliefs. In the Buddhist tradition, it is thought that the dirt from the outside world, including impurities and negative energy, should be left at the door to maintain the sanctity of the home or temple. Additionally, it's seen as a sign of respect toward the homeowner or the sacred space. When visiting a Lao household, it's important to be mindful of this custom. Often, you'll find designated spaces near the entrance to leave your shoes. In some cases, hosts may provide slippers for guests to wear inside. In temples, there are usually signs or clear instructions on where to leave your shoes, so following these rules is crucial to showing respect for Lao traditions. For foreigners, it can sometimes be difficult to remember this custom, but once you become accustomed to it, it's easy to incorporate into your daily routine. The Lao people will greatly appreciate your adherence to this practice, as it shows a willingness to engage with their culture and respect their values. 2. Rules regarding public behavior. Public behavior in Laos is often guided by a strict set of social norms and expectations, which are heavily influenced by Buddhist teachings and cultural traditions. One of the most important aspects of Lao society is the emphasis on maintaining harmony, respect, and modesty in all aspects of life. As a result, actions that may seem minor in other countries can have significant cultural consequences in Laos. For example, raising your voice in public or showing anger is seen as highly disrespectful and disruptive. Lao people generally believe in maintaining calm and composed behavior, even in stressful or difficult situations. Public displays of frustration, yelling, or arguing can cause embarrassment for both the individual and the people around them, and in extreme cases, could lead to social ostracism or even intervention from local authorities. When in public spaces, it's also important to avoid making excessive noise or drawing attention to yourself. For example, honking the car horn unnecessarily or playing loud music can be considered disrespectful. This reflects the Lao preference for maintaining a serene and peaceful environment, particularly in sacred or public spaces. Visitors to Laos should be aware that engaging in behavior that disrupts this tranquility could lead to misunderstandings or cause offense. Another crucial rule involves physical contact in public. In Laos, personal space is highly valued, and physical closeness, especially between strangers, should be avoided. Hugging, kissing, or any form of public affection between people who aren't romantically involved is frowned upon. Visitors should also avoid touching others, especially in public places like markets or temples. These acts may be perceived as invasive or inappropriate, so it's best to keep interactions polite and respectful. 1. Respect for elders. In Lao culture, elders are given great respect and hold an esteemed position in society. It is considered one of the most important values to show reverence for older individuals, whether they are family members, community leaders, or strangers. The elderly are seen as the bearers of wisdom, experience, and knowledge, and it is expected that younger people will always defer to them. When interacting with elders, there are specific customs and behaviors that demonstrate respect. For example, when greeting an elder, it is customary to bow your head slightly and place your hands together in a prayer-like gesture, called the NOP. This greeting is considered a sign of reverence and respect. You should also address elders using formal titles or honorifics, which further underscores their status in Lao society. One important aspect of respecting elders in Laos involves physical space and interactions. It's considered highly disrespectful to touch an elder's head, as this is seen as the most sacred part of the body. When sitting or standing in the presence of elders, it's important to avoid taking a dominant or elevated position, as this may be interpreted as a challenge to their authority or status. For example, when sitting, it's customary to lower your posture to show respect, and it is best to avoid sitting higher than an elder, such as on a raised platform or chair. Moreover, it is considered impolite to interrupt an elder when they are speaking. Listening attentively and allowing them to speak without interruption is a key part of showing respect. If you are a guest in someone's home or attending a gathering, it's expected that you will give deference to the elders and follow their lead in terms of social etiquette. Whether it's offering them food first or allowing them to speak first in a conversation, these small gestures go a long way in showing your respect for their position in society. Laos is a country with a rich and unique set of customs, many of which may seem strange to outsiders at first glance. However, these practices are deeply rooted in Buddhist teachings, cultural traditions, and respect for the community. From the prohibition on cutting hair on specific days to the importance of respecting the head and feet, Laos offers a fascinating glimpse into a culture that values harmony, spiritual purity, and mutual respect. While these rules and customs may seem like a challenge to follow, they are an essential part of Lao life. By respecting these traditions, visitors can have a more fulfilling experience and gain a deeper understanding of the Lao people and their way of life. Moreover, embracing these cultural differences will help foster positive relationships with the local population and allow for a more meaningful travel experience. Now that you've learned some of the most unusual and surprising rules in Laos, we'd love to hear from you. Which of these customs surprised you the most? Have you ever visited a country with similar traditions? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cultural deep dives from around the world. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep marveling at the wonders of our world.